race to become a Grandmaster.
With whom?
With like 1 million people who've gone 7-2, to be fair.
I see.
But the Americas race is that sort of low at the moment, and that can change. There's still 3 more Masters Tours to care about. But yeah, he will actually be straight up in the contender for being a Grandmaster just by getting into 7 wins.
Well, there you go. Pun has a lot to play for. It doesn't mean that Maverick doesn't, but, you know, maybe in Americas there is a lot more room for switching around of who gets in and out of Grandmasters, because, of course, this year we do have now 4 relegations, I believe, compared to just 3 of last year.
That's
Maverick
right, yeah.
starting already with a nice early curve from Priest, and Pun tossing Skull already lets you know that this is not OTK Demon Hunter.
Right, yeah, he doesn't have to draw endless cards to win the game and just like set it all up. He's just going to play on curve and try and kill you with Lapidary is a good way of starting in general, to be fair.
In truth, even in the previous iterations of Soul Demon Hunter, I think I would still keep Skull in most positions in this matchup, because I feel that the discounts you can get from Skull allows you to put out a lot of damage that the Priest might not necessarily be accounting for. It's in several large chunks as opposed to one fell swoop in OTK Demon Hunter, but interesting to see that Pun is perhaps placing more value on getting the consistent early minions, which, to be fair, he did find the double Mana Feeder Pantheras.
Yep, plenty going on there for just keeping the attack coming, I guess. But Priest, I don't know. I just like Priest so much, Gia. Even its bad matchups, you always feel it's got a chance.
You like Priest? Lorinda, when did this change of heart happen?
Oh, I mean, I hate the fact that it exists, but you know, I like winning. Winning's good. Actually, playing Priest, ooh, I'm not sure I can play enough Priest to, you know, the amount of time it takes for me to get to Legend from Bronze 10, 1 star at a time. I think there might not be enough hours in the day.
Okay, interesting choice to start off for Maverick. Obviously, the Lapidary is hard for him to get active. It's not impossible. Priest can also just steal ways to shuffle fragments in, but the Mana Feeder Panthera looks like a pretty solid choice for him next turn. Turn 4 with the hero power, and then he can follow up with Spellkin. Pretty solid curve.
Yep, and picking up the Il'gynoth, so at any time that the Priest gets too low, he just dies. That is not quite as straightforward as in the OTK build, quite obviously, but still going to be rather an issue going forward. And here comes the damage on curve over the next few turns now for Pun.
Right, so he can go about clearing this Mana Feeder with a Twin Slice and hero power, and he fits in his own Mana Feeder. He would then still just have 9 cards in hand for the next turn.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my head goes to immediately, but you always have to think about the downsides of using a Twin Slice like that, which is it's 1 less piece you can use to get your Bladed Lady out, turboed nice and early, which tends to be a great way to pressure the Priest. And so Pun, having nicely ordered this so that he sees what he gets off the Panthera before actually committing to Twin Slice, he finds a 1-drop and says, I don't need to worry about that much board precedence from Maverick yet. Better save the Twin Slices for Bladed Lady.
Yeah, this is where the game now becomes pretty nutty, especially with the second Lapidary being picked up. There's going to be a lot of damage coming out of Pun in the next 2 or 3 turns. It's going to be crazy anyway, and that's just added to the cause now. Next turn could be pretty crazy, and it won't even be going into turn 7, which is always nice to avoid that potential Soul Mirror.
You can see from Pun there, he immediately goes for the clean clear on the Cobalt Spellkin, because as an Apotheosis target, if the Spellkin is left to stick, it could go up to 5 attack, which then trades over the Soul Shard Lapidary, which is a disaster for Pun. The other minion left up, kind of questionable whether you want to take the trade, but Pun in the end decides to clear it off anyway, because it's not just necessarily Apotheosis, it's just leaving more targets for Sethic type things and just disasters, because Highlander Priest can pull so many tricks out of its hat with the inclusion of Zephyrus. I think it's fine for Pun to prioritize board control here.
Yeah, absolutely. The damage just comes so quickly when it comes. Oh my goodness.
Okay, Murazon always happy to see that, but I did look at the evasive worm because it just seemed like a clean way to get out of the lapidary. Unfortunately, though, after it loses the Divine Shield, it's kind of dead on board, so I think this is also fine for Maverick.
Right, decision time now for Pun. This is the turn that has been brewing for some time. How much stuff do you want out there this turn?
Definitely looking at the Bladed Lady, but it's hard to... Well, then again, you can go like Lapidary, Twin Slice, Coin Bladed Lady. Oh, or just rip a skull off the Illidari studies.
Is it
After the
much
coin,
use,
I
though?
think
He's
he
got
has
so
the
many
hand phase.
cards. Yeah.
Does, but I'm such a sucker for skull discounts. They come in handy much, definitely towards the end of the game.
Demons.
Yeah.
Demons.
Just going to be a
Ends up going for it.
bit of a nuisance, but there's no hurry. That's the lesson you always learn against Priest. Trying to set up a situation where he can have 2 good turns in a row. That way, if one turn gets blown out, the next one could definitely land the killing blow.
Right, and immediately equips the Eldrazi Warblades. I think this is a resource he's more willing to let go of as opposed to using the Relentless Pursuit, for example, just to make the 1 more hand space he needed. Timing of Skull is always very important as well because of Murazon in the deck. It so happened that Maverick got it discounted though, so he's able to get Skull and Eldrazi.
Must consider.
You think this is your
Just trying to add up how much damage he's got next turn. It's actually a non-trivial amount.
Oh, for sure, for sure. 2 Twin Slices is 4, Chaos Strike 6, Relentless Pursuit 10, Eldrazi itself 12, Soul Shard Lapidary 17.
Il'gynoth.
He doesn't have the mana for all of that.
If you've got the mana for Il'gynoth as well.
Yeah.
All the weapon buffs.
Yeah. It is not infinite mana, but yeah, the Il'gynoth, just delete the Lapidary from everything else I said and he can do that, right?
My goodness.
So 2 Twin Slice, no, 2 Twin Slices, Hero Power, Il'gynoth, and Relentless Pursuit. Hold on. 6 damage, 7 damage, 10 damage plus Il'gynoth. I think it goes to 20. Just a little bit off.
Yeah, I'm going to say that it's not lethal because I'm going to use the logic that he would have done it. Right. Oh,
That is
hang
very
on.
sound.
Here we go.
I mean, even if it's not lethal, this is still like a sick blade dance that he, at the downside of not fitting in the hero power for extra damage, he gets to fit in Bladed Lady. So he gets board presence on top of a ton of damage to Maverick's face.
Yep. Down to 5. So that'll do. Clear the board. Put your opponent to 5. Very nearly lethal in hand. Lethal is in hand as well as on board. That seems reasonable to me.
So how does Maverick best go about clearing this? Obviously he has Zephyrus,
I wonder.
which... Man, what does it even offer here?
I mean, who knows? Zephyrus is his own law. But yeah, how do you heal and remove this board? I don't think Zephyrus really can deal with all this.
Much better to just go for Cabal Acolyte with Holy Smite. He steals the Il'gynoth, can fit in hero power, and importantly has set up a taunt. So that Pun, should he have a follow-up of Soul Shard Lapidary or Marrow Slicer, has to get through 2 layers now after this embalming ritual of the Cabal Acolyte.
Yes. And that's going to be quite tricky. It looked like it was like all over one way, then the other. Typical Priest things. Too many cards in hand for Stelina to be too useful here.
True. I'm looking at the Fellblade. It gets him a way to chew through at least the first half of the Cabal Acolyte without having to expend his damage to face cards. I think he's kind of earmarked the Lapidary and Chaos Strike for that purpose. Il'gynoth still gonna stick around, but honestly, I think Pun is happy quote-unquote, that the lifesteal is not actually healing Maverick. Because
Yeah.
Pun has his own life to play with at this moment.
Yeah, I was wondering if Maverick was going to do sort of some accident. He's too good for that, where he feels like he's healing out of range and ends up just damaging Pun for like 6 and nobody cares. He has got Holy Nova. We do need to keep an eye on that. I
But that's
imagine...
not a lifesteal effect, is it?
Oh, it's not. That's a good point.
It deals
It's healing.
damage and heals you. Yeah, but it's not worded as lifesteal, so I don't think it interacts with
You're
Il'gynoth.
right. Maybe they can change that for us.
That'd be pretty sick. Il'gynoth Priest. So baseline play, just trade Galakron. I mean, hero power first before that happens. Clears the board. He saves the Zephyrus in hand. There's some risk you can take with the Vol'jin, but I don't see it as particularly necessary.
Yeah, do you feel comfortable playing Galakron? Or do you feel comfortable not playing it is the other question, I guess.
Yeah. I don't, honestly. I mean, I kind of want to get the armor down and just clear the board as consistently as possible.
Yeah, that's what he's going for.
Galakron.
That's it. That's
Maverick
the healing.
clearly doesn't look happy about it, though.
Yeah, he's in the does my opponent just hit me for 16 mode. Whilst that's not that likely, over a couple of turns now he's given up the right to heal. He's relying on Zephyrus to do that for him.
The good news for him somewhat, though, is that Pun currently doesn't have any fragments in the deck, so his Lapidary is not active. You could see Pun was searching there, and it's kind of unfortunate for him that both the Marrow Slicers are in the bottom 10. Those are cards you really want to get early in this matchup. But I could see him just going for Bladed Lady as a tempo tool here and throw Glaive to essentially allow the Chaos Strike damage to go face.
Yeah, imagine a world where you just cast the Bladed Lady, and it's still decent.
Yeah, it's a world right here. I mean, it could even just be Bladed Lady take this trade so he can fit in the hero power. It's like more net damage to the face at the cost of making your Bladed Lady a bit more fragile. And I think Pun is correctly identifying that he's in a spot where it's very unlikely he'll be able to get board control towards the end of this game. So he's just eking out every last bit of damage that he can, which is, you know, looking more and more permanent because Maverick's given up his healing hero power.
I'm wondering if Tyrion is just good here now. It's the default caster doesn't know what to do option, so get a Tyrion. But seriously, it might be quite reasonable here just to get a Tyrion.
It might be. It's always scary to like use your whole turn on that and leave up a Bladed Lady. He's not seen second Blade Dance, and there are fringe situations where, of course, Wand Maker generates silence, that type of thing. So between Tyrion and, say, Natalie Celine, I would actually take the Natalie here.
Okay.
If Zephyrus offers both.
Just want something to stick for my Apotheosis was my main thought process there. And even if you kill the Tyrion, but you're right, you know, Demon Hunter does remove things really well, and he does go for the Natalie.
Yeah, I mean, this is very tough to get rid of. Both of our arguments really do just lead up to, as you said, the Apotheosis having a target. And there's a clear here with Throw Glaive, and it's an expensive clear, but Pun needs to make sure that nothing too threatening sticks to the board.
Yeah, he's not particularly healthy himself. At this stage of the game, 17.
Oh, the glide, not again. I mean, it could be sick. He needs his Marrow Slicers.
Do you remember when everyone just rated this glide like 100 stars out of 4 or whatever? And then it was rubbish, and now we're starting to realize it's not that rubbish. It's just really hard to make it work. So good.
Finally arrived at that world.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily play it this turn because I feel that the Natalie is quite threatening.
Fearless.
Because if he... Okay, The alternative to playing Glide was using both the Blade Dance and Immolation Aura to get rid of the Natalie, which, now that I say it, sounds awful. So he just does go for it in the end. He says, if you have the Apo, well played. And it so happens that he put the Apo back in the deck. However, Maverick has Penance, nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, he's got the maths on his side there. It's 15 cards. You're going to have 5 out of 20 cards in your hand, so you probably won't have the Apo. That's just playing the numbers and being brave enough to do it when you're in a massive position in a Masters Tour.
Certainly brave, but Maverick hits an insane outcome off of the Sethic. Another Penance. Oh no! Oh my god! GG,
yeah, that one hurts.
GG.
And Maverick almost certainly going to take this one down now. That's a huge, huge swing, obviously. Doesn't even need pointing out, I think.
Maverick is just the Sethic Whisperer. Like, it gave him Renew, possibly the best individual outcome for Sethic regardless of situation, and then the Renew gave him Apotheosis, which was the best for this situation. And that's it. Pun just cannot outpace this healing, nor can he even remove the Natalie.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it was just a massive change around there, just in very short time. And in fairness, Maverick did sort of grab control slowly but surely after that massive attack by Pun, which we both liked at the time, I think. Things definitely went bad quite quickly for them.
Yeah, the Zephyrus really was important in terms of gaining the board control and setting up this one minion that's like, either you are going to spend a lot of resources to get rid of this, or I get to stick an Apotheosis target. It's always scary for Pun to have done that because there were some combinations of cards that Pun could have had that just dealt lethal immediately, such as Marrow Slicer plus, I guess, the other Twin Slice, something or along those lines. But I think Maverick identified that if Pun had Marrow Slicer, it probably would have come down a turn or two earlier. So he took that one window to swing the board. Even though there was a scary glide that happened, it was all turned around by the Apotheosis. It was a roundabout way of getting Apotheosis.
Yeah.
But it happened.
Yep, and 1-0 lead now for Maverick as we see the recap of a pretty exciting game, I would go as far as to say, for this one.
And this is definitely a highlight in and of itself. The Murazond Pulling Skull and Eldraki Warblades, a classic card that you need to be aware of as Soul Demon Hunter. Pun still went for the Skull. He had no way of knowing that it was Murazond off of the Draconic Studies anyway.
And this whole tournament's going to be a bit of a relief for Maverick. He's been qualifying incredibly easily for these Masters Tours and then doing really badly. We know he's good. He won DreamHack Tour. He's been around forever. He's won all kinds of things back in the day. But in Masters Tours, he's been winning the qualifiers like ridiculously fast, like qualifying after 10 attempts, then 2 attempts or 1 attempt, like just incredible hit rate. And then turning up and going 1-3 and 0-3. And I think he'll be so relieved to not just be 1-0 in this, obviously, in this one match, but to be 6-1 in the tournament. It's about time, Maverick, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about all his big achievements back in the days of DreamHack for Hearthstone. I could tell that he had a lot of achievements just by looking to the background of his camera where he had these trophies, and some of them are decoration, I believe, just nicely lined up over his shelf. I'm pretty jealous about that. Not only does he have trophies, but they're aesthetically pleasing too.
Yeah, I think he was the last player to qualify by hand for every single event. There may be 1 or 2 others, like where he doesn't qualify on the 7 and 2, he doesn't qualify on ladder, he has to go to a qualifier and win them over and over again.
I see. So by hand meaning the hard way.
The hard way, the very tough way, yeah. He did get a couple of decent results last year. He got a 6-3 and a 5-4 in the end, but again, that's not really what a player of Maverick standard is looking for in these events. So.
Indeed.
Still got a long way to go in this one though. He's only the 1-0 ahead, and there's a lot of weirdness still to come, I think, in this match.
It's true. Maverick, we saw there just highlighted, had his secret rogue up for next play, and we have seen a fair amount of rogue performing well, but I'm not sure if that is well representing just the entirety of rogue archetypes for the tournament. Secret rogue also has been brought by a fair amount of players, and we get to see it now in action. And obviously, you're giving up the, I guess, minion generation possibility you can get from World Kick in favor of just consistent generation of secrets from Hanar, which have, you know, a much narrower threshold of mana to work with, whereas, you know, World Kick can sometimes give you Kidnapper and very expensive, clunky things.
Yeah, on the downside with this deck, something that Dabak was bringing up in particular earlier, you can get your opponent down to 12 and be in a really good spot, and then you just don't have the eviscerates and the direct damage to finish the game. You really need to just keep that pressure on over and over. And so, although you're more likely to get into a good position, it's a little bit harder to actually convert that good position to a win.
True enough, and you can already see here from Maverick, faced off against this more aggressive Demon Hunter, he's fine just throwing down the Hanar for tempo. I think it's not very likely to stick, given that there is a one maker already played. It takes a single Twin Slice, or in this case, Eldraki Warblades, to deal with it. But Maverick is just saying, I have a pretty strong turn next turn with the questing developed, so I'm just going to throw something in your way right now, prevent Pun from developing another minion for free.
Yep, and it gives Pun some irritation as well. He's got to deal with this. You just can't let Hanar sit there just chilling on the board, because really bad things can happen if Maverick gets to start his turn with Hanar on the board.
The awkward thing about Eldraki is that he kind of wants to go Marrow Slicer next turn, so it would just be a turn of swing Eldraki into re-equip, which is really slow in terms of tempo. So I can actually see a world where it's either Twin Slice or Throwglaive, plus even a tempo mana feeder Panthera. I don't hate it.
No, but that's why Maverick did it, right?
Yeah.
He's given Pun this horrible looking turn. Pun's done the right horror story, but Maverick made him do it.
Oh, this is such a difficult hand for Maverick to parse over the next 2 turns, because obviously on 4 mana, everything gets unlocked. All the good stuff. He gets to go questing, coin, Foxy Fraud, step, Foxy Fraud. Sorry, Fox... Yep. Yeah.
All the things.
All the things. I think it's Prep Swindle first, and then you go like Foxy, Step Foxy, because you probably drew into some combo card off of the Swindle. And basically, that's a long way of saying you wait. And that's why Maverick just went for the dagger this turn.
It's one of those where you need to play the deck several times as well. There's definitely stages when I was learning this deck where you'd go Foxy, Swindle, Shadow Step, and just wait till the next turn, and then play a questing and go absolutely nutty on the next turn.
Indeed. Okay, one thing that Soul Demon Hunter has going for it that OTK doesn't is you have the option of just slamming down an Il'gynoth in plenty of matchups. I was, not gonna lie, I was definitely looking at that for Pun, but maybe he smelled that there is some big questing combo coming down for Maverick this turn, so he'd rather not even let there be a minion target for things like Backstab or Prize Plunder.
Yeah, I mean, Maverick has 3 cards in the deck that cost more than 3 and did nothing on turn 3. There's the clue, I think, that it's all going to kick off the turn after.
Ooh, it's Plagiarize as well. Maverick deliberately chose to use the Foxy Fraud discount on the Swindle instead of, say, prepping the Swindle and then using Foxy Fraud for whatever he gets off the top. I think this is the safer way of approaching it, because sometimes you hit just useless stuff off the Swindle, like these Prize Plunderers. Maverick is just gonna play them, though, to get even more buffs on the questing, all in on the big boy.
Interesting that he valued the difference between 9 and 10 so highly.
That he would get rid of his own 3-2, right?
But, you know, that's a lapidary, right? Like...
Yeah. True, it is a breakpoint that he needed to be aware of.
I grow impatient.
Probably exactly what he was thinking of. And while it is still going to get cleared, it's nice that Maverick was thinking about that other possibility that he disallowed from Pun. It so happened that Pun had the other solution, but I like where his head was at because these prize plunders are not really getting much done on the other side of the board.
Yeah, and now he's just got to rely, like he probably expected to in some way, on this passage just being good. And passage is always good, so he's fine. Oh, just rip a Jandis.
That's insane. I was going to say passage probably the play this turn. It's a shame that it's 4 mana remaining, so he can't play the ideal draw off the passage of Jandis. But the solution is to simply top deck Jandis herself.
Yep.
Dreadlord's Bite is interesting here because what he can do is if he guesses the illusion right, or rather attacks the non-illusion minion with his Eldraki Warblades, then the Dreadlord cleans the rest of it up.
Yes.
Alternatively, he could just override the Marrow Slicer right away and then use Dreadlord hero power to clear whichever of the 4/4s remains.
Yeah, it's a tough one to guess this. It's basically a 50-50.
I think I would chicken out and just override the Marrow Slicer here because the only upside of the guess right on the 50-50 is having another charge on your Dreadlord's Bite, which is just a 2-attack weapon. I don't think it's a huge deal. And
Well,
he ends up guessing wrong. So
yeah, we're going to see the downside here of what happens now.
too bad. The downside is huge. He takes another 4 damage.
Yeah, that's a lot. He's down to 16, although a little bit of healing still in hand, but it is only a little bit. But this is where Rogue now, what we talked about at the start, can it get that final bit of damage required? Lackeys are a good way of doing it.
Lackeys, One Thieves. Okay, that's a pretty decent outcome off of the Secret Passage. Gets to play 3 of the cards.
Oh, up to no good? Me too.
No reason to play those lackeys right now, but he's having a think just in case.
Yeah. Can make an argument for more immediate tempo, but Plagiarize is so good in this matchup, or in this spot, rather, where Pun, if he wants to heal up, has to play Eldraki and buff it up. And if Maverick gets any of those attack buffing cards, then he is essentially just negating that healing right back.
Choosing not to push the 1, very expensive to reload that dagger when you're trying to maximize every point of damage in terms of value, in terms of mana cost.
Absolutely. And now Pun has to be scared of that Plagiarize. He can get full information on it as soon as he plays a spell, because the only other secret that Maverick plays is Dirty Tricks.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting that that's not a great combination of secrets, is it? I know that's how it's built. Like, it's not. I'm not criticizing. It's just for tournament play with revealed lists.
Oh man, he doesn't play Morg. Spell Scream doesn't actually do that much. Maybe it does enough. Just play it on the Vectus so that the mana feeder can kill it off. Then you trade your weapon into the Foxy. Oh, it doesn't sound good.
I love how that card has gone from being like absolutely terrible into the card that you want into, oh, it's absolutely terrible again. Sign of a well-designed card, in my opinion. Like you.
We're seeing the repercussions of Pun's choice to swing first with the Marrow Slicer, and he did end up overriding his second charge of the Dreadlord's Bite anyway, so feels bad for him. But I guess I should commend Maverick for putting the illusion on the more valuable minion for that little bit of mind game, which happened to pay off this time. Deadly Poison. This is almost certainly lethal with the One Thief, right?
Yeah.
One Thief always lethal.
It's always lethal or freeze is kind of how it works out, right? But yeah, Fireball is auto-lethal, and there'll be some other options as well.
Nah, that's not it.
That really isn't anything like what you wanted. Try again. Don't do that.
These are all kind of bad. I guess he can just go something like Eldraki Deadly Poison, Swing Face. It's really tough to just bank all that damage though, because he can see the Eldraki on the other side. So there's a world where Pun hits the Soul Shard Lapidary, etc., etc. And in that world, Maverick will have wanted to clear all these minions before banking the face damage. So in retrospect, why not just get Plague of Madness and override their lifesteal weapon?
What a load of mess though. Look at all these rubbish cards that are coming onto the board just to generate this panic in the opposing camp. It's a board of absolute rubbish, and it's going to probably win the game. I know that's what Rogue does, but you won't get a better example of it than a random weapon and a bunch of 1/2s.
Well, Il'gynoth Fellscream with a couple other cards that are not run in this deck, that could be lethal.
Great. Are you going to break that to Pun, or am I? Hey Pun, if you just run different cards in your deck and played the other version of this, you'd have had lethal.
Mm-hmm. I'm not telling that to Pun.
I don't want to have that conversation.
In fact, I don't think I would tell anyone except you, because you know that I'm not trying to be rude.
No, I know that you would be trying to be rude if you told me that. And I'd probably deserve it for something or other.
Well, Pun did manage to stay alive on board, but again, we have a chance for Kobold Lackey immediate lethal, and even if it's not that, Blade Dance plus Backstab in the other order can deal with these two minions.
Goblin Lackey's not enough. So once again, he's got to revert to just clear up the board and win next turn. When the Il'gynoth is gone and your opponent has one card, you're probably just killing them soon.
Absolutely. Stab the Il'gynoth, Blade Dance. He can also evolve his Miscreant if he likes. It's a slow and painful death for Pun, but that's what Rogue does, you know.
Actually, is
by
killing the
1,000 cuts.
Il'gynoth right?
I think there's like no way you lose at this point after Pun's played both Eldraki Warblades, so I'd rather not leave it there in case of some disaster discovery off of Illidari's.
Yeah, I think that's the reason. I just was wondering when I got a bit deeper into the thinking, like, I wonder if leaving it up means you never ever fail to kill them next turn because they never get to heal.
Maybe. I think it's worth considering if they still have Eldraki left,
Yeah,
but they don't have healing left in the first place, through lifesteal that is.
fair point. Yeah, with both Eldraki's going so early. And it's 2-0 there for Maverick. And looking good for it, I think. Pun's deck seems fine, but it's just not getting it done on screen at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I also just want to go back once again to that play on the 50-50 for the Vectus / Dr. Krastenov illusion. I completely get where Pun's head is at, because a lot of situations, they're very likely to just put the illusion on the less valuable minion. He thought he had that read clear enough that he could eke the value out of the extra weapon charge, but taking that 4 extra damage ended up being a pretty big deal, because Maverick, like you were discussing at the beginning, and I'm glad it was kind of brought to fruition, the Rogue struggled to close out the game towards the end, at least in one fell swoop. It took them several turns of incremental dagger damage to get the job done, and in other situations, Demon Hunter might have had the window to heal back up while the Rogue was waiting to find their lethal.
Yeah, frantically searching through all of that Discover to try and find some more damage, and eventually did get there, but that was an interesting play as well, the Prize Plunderer just going back there, just killing off his own minion to get past the break point.
Admittedly, I would not have done that, so I'm really glad that you spotted that it was for Lapidary.
So, 2-0, can Pun get it done? Of course, Maverick has another big advantage here in that he's been on, casts many, many, many times in his life, and Pun, to my knowledge at least, this is his first big one.
Yeah, to my knowledge as well. But you did mention that he grew his stream pretty much overnight after that first place legend race, which always is quite fun to watch in Hearthstone, even if it's not necessarily streamed as a race anymore. And it's different people who seem to be going at it every month. It the prestige of getting that finish is unlike any other, and it's good to see that Pun has carried that motivation over into the Masters Tour. Obviously, he has quite a hill ahead of him to climb if he wants to take this series. He will have to 3-0 the other Demon Hunter.
Yeah, and we haven't really seen much of this in the top end of the tournament. We've seen it sort of smattered about, but I think most of this has gone missing over the course of the tournament. But Maverick still hanging out there, and I think when we've seen it, it's looked good. So I'm a bit surprised there's not more of them near the top.
Yeah, it has seemed quite powerful when it's been on stream. I can definitely see this being a deck that people would shy away from bringing, even if they think it's strong, if they're not absolutely confident in how well they play it, because there is such a huge margin of error in the deck. One miscount or one bad planned hand positioning can lead to a whole big ripple effect of disasters one after the other. And especially when you have to play on stream and look very stupid like certain casters who cannot count lethal.
I mean, I'm just holding my hands up now. It's all on you, Gio. I'm just going to go 24, 48, 12, 6 and hope one of them is right, like a bingo caller.
I'm going to tell you 6 is almost never going to be right.
Okay. See? I'll miss that one out. Right, that's 3 square. Off we go. But yeah, he's going to have to get it done. He's got 3 attempts to do it. And I'm curious to see if Pun... I imagine Pun will queue at whatever he thinks is the most likely victory first, just to get himself, again, that airtime I do talk about in these situations. He's very likely to make the top 16, so even if he's going to lose here, which isn't certain, he's definitely well advised to make the most of his time on camera to get used to it in case he does get to that top 8, where the pressure is really ramped up to the max.
Absolutely, and I was kind of wondering which of his 3 decks was most likely to get the job done. I was very hesitant to say Druid because a lot of the Demon Hunter AoE can sweep past Glowflies, etc. quite easily. The Priest, obviously on paper, feels like, oh, that's a deck that's too slow to beat an OTK deck. But if you just start your hand with Elucia and have a decent understanding of how many Moargs are in your opponent's hand, or the Il'gynoth being there, that can just solo the matchup. But in the end, Pun is starting off with his Soul Demon Hunter, which I feel has a fair chance in this matchup because it outputs a lot of damage rather quickly as well and doesn't necessarily rely on minions on board. And if you don't play 3 minions or limit it to 1 or 2 threats at a time, the healing from the OTK Demon Hunter can also be limited.
Yeah, I feel that the win rate has a fairly high floor for this OTK deck. Sometimes it just does its thing, no matter what the opponent is.
True.
And that when you've got 3 chances, that's going to play into Maverick's favour to some degree as well. Now,
but as far as
here might be good this time.
True, but it's very unlikely to get outcast in my opinion because Maverick's gonna draw another card next turn, which likely he'll have to play the Stelina from the left if that were to happen, which I'm not a big fan of just throwing out the Moarg on its own. So why not take another I-Beam? 3 of a kind.
How are we with the triple I-Beam victory maths? How's that gonna go?
I will cross that bridge if or when we get there.
Yeah, I imagine that hopefully we won't have to. It'll be a lot more apparent than that. At the moment, it's just about don't die and don't waste resources. And those 2 things are trying to oppose each other all the time.
Oh, Maverick has nothing. He has Tempo Moarg, apparently, because his hand is just that bad. And obviously, we've discussed it over and over again that Soul Demon Hunter is a powerful OTK deck in part because it runs redundancy for its combo pieces. You don't necessarily even need that many Moargs to deal a combo depending on breakpoints. Demon Hunter is an opponent that cannot gain armor, so Maverick, if he hits a 32 breakpoint at any point in the game, will be fine. But it looks like he doesn't really see the value in Moarg as a tempo play given that Pun has not even played any minions prior to that turn. So.
I think also, I think it went through his mind to do it, and then he had a second thought, and actually 2-4 just doesn't line up with Soul Demon Hunter minions at all. Like, it's not very good against 2-3s, it's not very good against 5-5s, and if you want to I-beam something, you just play at the turn you're going to I-beam them, like for more than 3.
Yeah.
So there was kind of no value in playing it, even though it's redundant, even though it wouldn't have hurt him much. It was like, actually, why am I bothering? This just doesn't challenge anything.
Very true. As opposed to, say, against a stealth rogue, where you do want the 2-4 to try and eat up a Spy Mistress, for example. Doesn't get very much done against Pun. But unfortunately for Maverick, Pun has had the exact kind of hand that this type of draw from the OTK Demon Hunter struggles to deal with, which is they have a bunch of removal, but sure, I as the Soul Demon Hunter am not going to put much in the way of threats at the beginning. Instead, I'm going to accumulate all the damage from, say, weapons or Soul Shard Lapidary for later on. And he has Second Skull as well. Everything Maverick wished that he had.
Yeah, this is looking a little bit like a similar hand to Game 1, where Pun nearly got it done with just one massive attack. But this time the defenses are a lot lower. It's not a priest fighting back this time, so there's a very good chance Pun just has 2 turns where he does sort of 12, then 16 or something, and just ends the game.
And he can coin the Second Skull if he likes, although maybe he should pay attention to the 4-4 just to eke out some more chip damage from his 2 small minions that are already there.
Yep, force Maverick to burn those resources because he can burn some, but he can't burn them all. So
absolutely,
make him use them as they're done. It is a combo piece removed.
Oh, his draw from Maverick has just not been it, right? On turn 6, there's a fair few top decks that are good. Obviously, Skull, even Illidari studies to an extent to pull the Skull and immediately play. Philosophy gives him at least redundancy on the Moarg, but the more important thing to do here is get rid of the Lapidary, I think.
Yeah. You can't take 5 many times against this deck. You can't take 5 many times against many decks, but this deck follows it up with a lot more damage coming in behind, so you've really got to deal with it, I think.
And therefore, it is a Moarg plus an I-Beam. And if it's going to be that, he will have mana to work with, so he can start with the cycle from the Chaos Strike. There's also a way of clearing that doesn't expend Moarg, but I think he would have to face tank the Lapidary.
Yeah, he wants to avoid that. And now the 3-5 is a much better shaped minion for the job of defending. So him changing his mind earlier in the game has now led to him having a minion that actually is a functioning minion that can take part in actual fights.
Yeah. Throwglaive, pretty clutch here. Nice expenditure with the Moarg to get rid of the small minions after the I-Beam has dealt with the Lapidary. So Maverick has managed to stabilize, but his hand is so dry of card draw. He absolutely needs Skull. Entering the 7 mana breakpoint, he now has access to double jump as a potentially good top deck, but it really needs to be double jump Skull or Illidari studies. Everything else I feel is a bit too slow.
Yeah, I mean, this is his one turn now to have anything happen because Pun, with the reduced costs from the Skull and just the natural shape of things in this deck, is going to do monstrous sums of damage from this turn onwards.
Although, as it turns out, Pun's discounts have not been super impactful on Bladed Lady. That's already a 1-drop anyway. And he has already had to use the Relentless Pursuit, the other discount falling on the Useless Fragment. Maverick gets card draw, but runs into air yet again. And if he wants to get the Consume Magic in Outcast position, he would have to dump the 3rd I-Beam. Okay, no fragment.
No fragment, yeah, that's actually more than useless. It was completely negative.
Mm-hmm.
You don't pick the ones.
But it's fine, he has other things to do, like Chaos Strike. I could even see a Cane happening to clear some hand space because Pun does not have much of it. Embarrassment of riches as it stands.
Yeah, he needs to start doing some stuff. Like, he's got a lot of mana's worth of cards in hand. I realize that he doesn't want to play the Bladed Ladies until he has to, because that's how you effectively lower this mana costs, but He does need to just get a threat on the board. He hasn't got one.
My blades.
And now he has.
And so the Bladed Lady's coming down as a 3-mana 6/6. In this weird situation where he hasn't really had the time or he hasn't found Marrow Slicer, then the discount on Bladed Lady is actually pretty decent. But here, finally for Maverick, something is happening. He's hit the skull. He's hitting... Still not Il'gynoth, but getting close. I fully expect the Illidari studies to be saved for next turn.
Yeah, Maverick's...
Could be I-Beam and Swing? Other order.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, he's down to only 10 cards in deck now, so he is going to draw all of the things. Now he's got that first skull out of the way a lot more quickly.
Ooh, he's leaving up the Bladed Lady, which means he is definitely thinking about using the I-Beam as just the combo activator or part of it.
Yep.
It's very significant, the amount of damage you can get off of that. And also just by leaving more minions up on Pun's side of the board, Maverick is more likely to get full usage out of his Fellscream Blast.
Whole bunch of nothing here. I wonder if I-beaming his own minion is going through Pun's head. It gets rid of a minion that could hurt him, and it helps him heal up, because he's wondering why Maverick hit him in the face there.
That's true. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I mean, my eyes were drawn to Consume Magic to try and draw towards a Soul Fragment generator, but I like where your head's at with the I-Beam.
It takes so much damage off the board and heals him up. Well, but he needs to make sure he doesn't ruin any of his own breakpoints. Now he's trying to push for his own lethal as well.
Right. If the I-Beam thing is happening, I could see it for maybe next turn still. And there's a lot of situations where you kind of just say, even if I don't have any minions, you could have a combo anyway, depending on how many Moargs you think are in their hands / Ethereal Aug Merchants. Because those are the minions you can shoot with your own spells, just not Il'gynoth.
I feel like he left it till last to sort of process it as he was doing the other things in the turn.
Okay.
Just got the impression there that he wasn't quite sure what to do with the I-Beam, so he waited until the end of the turn. Right, Mavericks.
Could very possibly be the case. For Maverick, this is kind of awkward how to make room for the skull. At the very least, he can just swing this Eldrazi re-equip, and that creates one space.
Yeah, don't die, draw 3 cards, win next turn. Easy game.
The don't die part is the iffiest portion of that statement, because post-skull, he doesn't necessarily have a good way of dealing with the Bladed Lady. Okay, he at least gets rid of the weapon.
Yeah, that's pretty important as well.
But the Bladed Lady is scary, not gonna lie.
Yeah, he's going to deal with that too.
Okay, expending combo pieces to do it. I think he still has one Fellscream Blast, so it should be fine.
Yeah, this is where you have to have played this deck enough, you know, to know what you can burn, what you can't, what numbers you're playing for exactly.
Pun finally has a Spirit Jailer, so we could see something like Immolation, Spirit Jailer, Soul Shard Lapidary. He could see that Maverick expended quite a few possible combo pieces to deal with the previous Bladed Lady, so getting another big minion on the board would be pretty high up on my priority list if I were him.
Yeah, I mean, he's got no time, right? Like, Maverick's down to 5 cards. You know that your time is up here.
I grow impatient.
You have to do it now. Whatever you're going to do, it has to be good and it has to be now.
I guess the question is between Bladed Lady or Lapidary. And the Bladed Lady obviously gets more done next turn, but if you play the Lapidary now, that means you have more freedom of mana next turn to top deck, say, Marrow Slicer, and play that alongside Kayn. Whereas if you had gone for Bladed Lady this turn, you get 1 more damage from minions, but you don't necessarily fit in the Lapidary Battlecry plus Kayn plus whatever you top deck all in one turn. And he has a very small window now to get this lethal done.
Meanwhile, Maverick's down to 3 cards and still no win condition.
Okay, Sigil Runner. If he gets Il'gynoth off the top, I don't think he has everything he needs. He doesn't actually have a big lifesteal spell at the moment. He needs both Il'gynoth and a lifesteal spell.
Oh my... How has it come down to this?
I mean, Pun has put on pressure, so Maverick had to expend some resources. And also just Il'gynoth is very shy this game.
From where Maverick sat, it's... And I'm not saying you can do this in 75 seconds, but it's probably solvable one way or the other.
True, true. I get what you mean.
Yeah, he's got to survive as long as it takes to draw 3 more cards. That's all. With giant inverted commas, that's all he needs to do. Of course, it's the bottom card.
Yep. Okay, I think he did calculate that he was... If he's not going to get Il'gynoth, very likely he gets Immolation or just a way to deal with the Lapidary that doesn't involve him swinging into it. And he knows that he's not able to play all Morgs with Il'gynoth the same turn anyway. So max damage output next turn is 6 double, 24 off of the Il'gynoth combo with a single Fellscream Blast. That's not even counting the 4 he'll get from his Eldrazi Warblades. So as long as Pun does not go above 28 health, he wins the game. Or Maverick wins the game.
Right. Absolutely spot on, Gia. You passed the test, I hope. I have no idea if you're right or not, but I believe you.
Yes, please do believe me. This is one of the few combinations where there's nothing discounted. There's no outcast discount from Illidari study, so I think I got it right this time.
Grows short.
Glide, though.
Oh my.
I mean, it's a thing, right?
Yeah,
because
it is. It really is.
Maverick,
It means that something goes to the bottom of the deck and doesn't get drawn.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Pun should know this 100%, that if he doesn't mess with what Maverick's trying to do somehow, he's 100% dead if the hand tracking has been perfect and all that, and the players are allowed to use deck tracker software for this tournament. So the Glide was actually his only out here.
Okay, there's the Il'gynoth.
Yeah.
There's the Blast, and there's the 2 Moags. But no...
But he doesn't have the... Yeah, okay, so... Oh no, the math changed. It's like... 3 double, now it's 12 plus the attack from the weapon. It is not enough from what I can see. And in order to draw the Ethereal, he has to use 1 mana, so he doesn't have the mana left to do everything else.
So his next question is, does he ever die next turn because Pwn cannot heal?
I think highly unlikely. I think he's just supposed to pass here.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight up pass, not even swing with the weapon. I think.
I think so too, and I think he's just double, triple checking everything.
Grows short.
Because there's a lot on the line for getting this right and for getting this wrong. 7-1 is very close to certain top 16. I'm never going to say it's certain because it will be tiebreakers at 7-2.
But it is highly likely, especially since Maverick, if he does take a second loss, it would be quite late into the Swiss rounds. Okay.
So he does swing.
Yeah. The swing here is saying that I think I'm more scared of dying to some weird combination of damage from Pun as opposed to Pun healing out of range of 24, which I think is absolutely reasonable because Pun just cannot heal given that he played an Il'gynoth.
Yep.
Either line from Maverick, like swing or not swing, I think 100% he wins the game. But the waiting is the important part here. And here we have the long-awaited combo.
Yep, bottom card combo twice in the same game. just managed to make it happen twice thanks to that glide. And Maverick, a punch to the air and some relief for him. That's not just relief from today, that is 2 years worth of relief. Very likely to have made the cut for the top 16 and does pick up those points towards Grandmaster as well. France will be claiming him back.
Very succinctly put, Lurinden. You can see already his achievements back on that shelf there. Could soon be adding another trophy. Who knows? I don't want to jinx it. I also just want to say, thank goodness I finally got through one OTK Demon Hunter cast without messing the math up too badly.
I knew I'd carry you all the way through that.
I don't weigh that much, thankfully, so I hope you're ready to do it again next round.
But yeah, here we go through this.